Usually there's different content on this TikTok channel, but for the occasion, I have a European passport. That means in the Free Trade Union of Europe. The Pope of Rome got an Italian passport. He's an ex-bouncer, and under the current European Union contract, I am able to use my abilities, prophetic foresight, military foresight, and all kinds of other abilities as a sage, to see this man his future. So I spy on Vatican City legally with that European passport using my abilities. And I'm going to come online here and tell you what I saw. What is busy? What's going on in the head of the Pope of Rome? I'm going to show you this. So 500 years ago, Martin Luther did a protest against the Vatican City and won. And all of a sudden you had a division between the Church of Jesus Christ. A division whereby there was a Protestant movement and a Catholic movement in the institutionalized church on the earth. That is all, everyone knows that. But what people usually do not know is that before the Protestant rebelled against the Catholic Church, the Orthodox also rebelled against the Catholic Church. So you have to understand political science. So when the grace of God falls upon a state, then that state will take His word. So that happened in the Roman Empire. That's 1600 years ago. So 1600 years ago, the grace of God fell upon the Roman Empire, whereby human authority fell under the grace of God here in the West. So this is the framework of thinking that you need to understand the future of the Pope of Rome and the West. So when the grace of God fell upon the Catholic Church, the first state organization of empirical level, then they went wrong and they got a rival, and then the Orthodox Church came into existence. So that was the first sign that the course that was moved by the course that was decided by the Catholic Church was wrong, and then they lost a part of their destiny too, and the Orthodox people became independent. So all of a sudden you had two partitions of Roman Empire church power, Imperial Church, Roman Empire. So there is a seat which is the imperial head of the Church of the Roman Empire, and because that seat has been abused, that power got divided in two entities. The Orthodox seat. So a bunch of 100 years later, there you go, they did it again, and there you got the Protestant seat. So the Protestantism in the West is very known. That's everyone that's not Catholic. You got Americans, you got Europeans, you got 1,000 schisms, but they're all a form of Protestant energy. So you got Catholic energy, Protestant energy, and Orthodox energy. But all that energy is Church of Roman Empire energy. Just to make the ordinary men and women out there understand what I'm going to say. Because this is going above the heads of all the people. I assure you this. So you have the Roman Imperial Church energy, grace of God, state church, institutionalized church. And if you look at the Protestant church, for example in Germany, where that came from, they do baby baptism. There is the Catholic rituals are in the Protestant church. You know, it's hardly to differentiate a Catholic from a Protestant church these days. That's because the freedom, right? You have to understand destiny. So there was a plan of God for Roman Empire, and the Caesar, became corrupt, and then people got individual states. People got power, division of power. No longer one big giant head, but a lot of small heads. But it's still Roman Empire timeline, only it's smaller. So the authority changed, but the timeline didn't change. It's still one West. It's still one timeline, and there's still one church energy, and there's still one head of the religion of Christianity in the eyes of the masses, right? So the Protestants looked at it and went like, look at this Catholic Church, we have to reform, and God accepted it, and they had their own birthright system. The Protestant bloodlines, they were separated from the Catholic bloodlines. Only at one point, after many generations, that energy ran out. Just like in the Bible is written that the Jewish kings, at one point, God was done with them, closed the book, dethroned, right? So what's happening in the Vatican right now is that Satan is there with the Vatican hat. Let me try to explain this to you. So Satan is counseling the Pope of Rome, and this is what the devil keeps telling the Pope. I'm telling you the truth. So at one point, all the Protestant bloodlines, all these thousands of schisms all over the West, are going to spiritually default, whereby they're going to go back to the timeline of the Roman Empire. Listen to me. So you get your freedom from God, and your grandchildren mess it up, and all of a sudden the freedom is revoked, and what happens? You go back where you came from, right? So all of a sudden, they're in the Vatican, they're anticipating upon the fact that all these Protestant divisions are going to come back to the Catholic Church. So they also expect that from the Orthodox Church. So in Russia, you see that they're starting to move towards China because they see the sphere of influence of the Vatican all of a sudden rising. So here comes the globalist difficult thing to understand for most people. I'm going to try to break it down to you as simple as I can, that you can understand it. So the Vatican is anticipating on the spiritual bankrupt from all the Protestants and from all the Orthodox. Look at the Orthodox. Look at what type of war the Russians are waging. That doesn't look like a church, right? So the Germans had Nazi Germany. That doesn't look like church. People forgot that the church from Rome, they killed, millions of heretics. So killing millions is something Christians do. Like that timeline from the Roman Empire. So the Catholic Church had a phase where they killed millions. The Lutheran Church had a phase where they killed millions, right? So it's just this tendency of humans to kill others that do not think like them. So if you look at today's society, you see that if you don't believe however you're supposed to believe, you don't have much rights anymore. They won't kill you, but they will ostracize you, they will cancel you. So it's in that human nature. It's nothing new. It has nothing to do with what you see now in society. That's just something that happens once half a thousand years. So let's continue. I got 2 more minutes to tell you what's going on in the Vatican City. So all these Roman Empire Church bloodlines that got their freedom are doing all the things you need to do to lose it. Look at the Westerners with their quote-unquote Protestant church. Look at that nonsense. Western, so Baptist church, Anglican, all that stuff. That's all some division of that. Let's separate from the Vatican. Let's separate for Catholicism. And then you have the Catholic Church. Look at these hypocrites. So the Catholic Church and the Protestant churches and the Orthodox churches, all 3 of them are starting to mess up. It's the end of the age of grace. It's the timeline of the New World Order from the book of Revelation. So the grace of God all of a sudden removed out of this timeline. Well, by all these quote-unquote religious Christians are all of a sudden starting to commit the sin of idolatry, and all of a sudden Satan's influence in the church became more powerful than God's influence in the church. And all of a sudden the whole world say, what's this church? What's the purpose of this church? It's an evil organization, right? So at one point you're going to get a dark Roman Empire and a dark Roman Pope. That's what they want to do. Why? Is because they have identified that China is the judgment of God. Just like at one point Martin Luther showed up and took from the Catholic Church. At one point the Orthodox showed up and took from the Catholic Church. Around the corner are the Chinese ready to take from the Catholic Church. Right? So the Chinese are the biggest threat against this Roman Empire, Age of Grace, division of churches of the West timeline. The whole West is spiritually bankrupting, and there comes the next rival. So of course everyone is going to try to defeat the Chinese, just like how everyone tried to defeat the Orthodox separatists or the Lutheran separatists. But That's just how the judgment of God works. It just comes.